2 words for more natural voiceovers. Hello, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about 2 words that are very subtle but very powerful, and if you use them correctly, it'll make all your voiceovers sound so much more natural. We're talking about the 2 words a and the. Yeah, those little tiny words that you've probably said a bajillion times in your life without thinking about it. But when you read them out loud, most people anyway, especially when they're new to voiceover, they read them in a certain way that is a dead giveaway that they're actually just reading and not talking. How you say those words will completely change how conversational your reads are. This is one of those topics that really separates beginners and pros. I can always spot a beginner voiceover if they read these 2 words a certain way, and I'll get to that in a minute. So today I'm going to break down the difference between the long form and the short form versions of these 2 letters. I'm also going to talk about why it matters so much for a natural delivery and how to train yourself to instinctively read these words the right way every time. So stick around to the end, because by the end of this video, you're going to have that one little superpower that separates the beginners from the pros and be able to instantly improve your reads. And before we get in too deep, if you want to learn more topics like this, how to read more naturally, how to record great audio, how to reach out and find new clients and book them, check out the Voiceover Blueprint. It's my flagship training program that covers all that and more. And if you want to book a free call to learn more about it, you can check the description below in the pinned comment and book a call. Okay, we're going to start really simple. Let's talk about these 2 words, a and the. Now, these are called articles in English, but voiceover isn't about proper grammar per se. It's about being real and natural. And if you use these 2 words incorrectly, as I said before, it is a dead giveaway that you're reading. But if you do it correctly, it'll sound much more natural and flow better. Okay, so you probably already know that there are 2 main ways to say these 2 words, a and the and the. And you've probably said these in both forms your whole life without even thinking about it. But when most new voice talents sit down and they start to read a script, their brain switches into performance mode. And when it goes into performance mode, it starts to sound a little bit more stiff and reedy. And typically, those 2 words are read in the long form versus the short form. Have you ever listened back to something that you've read or recorded and thought to yourself, why do I sound so reedy? Why does it sound like I'm reading and not just talking? Because I don't talk like that in real life. That's because when we were growing up in school, we were taught to read everything correctly and clearly, including those 2 words, a and the. But when we talk naturally, we tend to shorten them. And they get a little softer, a little shorter, and those are the ones that sound more natural when we talk. It's all about flow and rhythm. And so when you say the short versions of those words, they kind of blend into the next word in the sentence, and it just flows much easier without breaking that rhythm of natural speech. Okay, without turning this into an English lesson, I want to break down when it's okay to say the long form versus the short form of both of these words. You say the long form of the word before a vowel sound, and not a vowel letter, but a vowel sound. So for instance, the apple, the end, the idea, and you say the before a consonant sound, the car, the book, the microphone. And it's the same with the letter A. You say the long form before a vowel sound.
And now for something completely different.
Hey guys, just a quick break here to let you know that the application window for the Voiceover Blueprint training program is now open. The Voiceover Blueprint isn't just a bunch of prepackaged videos. It's the most comprehensive voiceover training program in the known galaxy. When you join, you'll get live instructional webinars every day covering marketing, tech, performance, casting sites, and more. Plus access to a private Facebook group where you can ask questions, get feedback, watch me work in live voiceover sessions, contests, and tons more. You'll also unlock a full library of on-demand video training modules, special discounts on demos and partner programs, and exclusive one-on-one coaching with VO experts. New members get a 30-minute onboarding call with me just to make sure you're off on the right foot. Plus, dedicated US-based member support every step of the way. Book your call now to learn more in the description and the pinned comment below.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Here's why this matters so much when you use the short version of these words, and it's because your speech will flow more easily. It'll sound like a real person talking. When you use the long form too much, the A and the, it sounds performed. And that tiny little change can make the difference in sounding more natural versus sounding reedy and overperformed. So here's an example of A and the in action. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat by the window to start my day. Now let's exaggerate that. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat by the window to start my day. So did you hear the difference? The second one sounded much more stiff and basic versus just a nice flowy conversation. I grabbed a coffee and sat by the window versus I grabbed a coffee and sat by the window. The first one is how we actually talk, so it sounds more effortless and conversational. Okay, let's make this practical. Here's an exercise that I go over with some of my students in the VoiceOver Blueprint called the flow test. Take any random line of copy. Let's say it's a car is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. Now record yourself reading it twice. The first one with the long version. A car is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. First, say it like you're reading it straight off the page with the long form of the words. A car is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. Then say it again with the short form. A car is more than just a way to get from point A to point B. When you listen back to it, you'll notice that the second form is much more natural and flowy and is really more like we talk to each other. And that's what clients want. Now, if you remember my previous video on the springboard method where we talked about adding words at the beginning of the script to kind of trick your brain into thinking you're having a conversation, you can actually combine that with this and it works perfectly. Let's say your script starts with the words, "a better way to manage your business." If you were to jump right into that, a lot of people would just start with the word A and do the long form. So, a better way to manage your business. Instead, do a springboard, something like, you know what, there's a better way to manage your business. It will automatically come out more naturally. That comes out more naturally because you're in conversation mode and not reading mode. All right, so here's a quick warning. Don't overdo this. There's not really a hard and fast rule when it comes to those, vowel sounds and consonant sounds. Just do what you feel like you would say in a normal conversation. So if you're reading a script and you find yourself kind of overthinking and worrying about vowel sounds and consonant sounds and that kind of thing, then you're trying too hard. Let it flow. Just think in your head, how would I say this if I was just having a normal conversation? Okay, and here's how pros use this very subtly. If you listen to a national, commercial, you'll realize that professionals don't say every word perfectly. They string words together and they kind of flow from one to another, kind of like what I'm saying right now. What they're doing is they're connecting sounds. They're flowing through the copy and not perfectly pronouncing every single word. I call that overcooking, when people try to be too perfect, because perfect is the enemy of good voiceover. So when you're performing, focus on the overall intent of the words, not just specific words themselves. So we're looking for the emotion, the intent, the overall scope of what's being said. Okay, here's the final takeaway. Sounding natural in voiceover isn't just about having a nice voice. It's about mastering those little subtle details that make us sound like we're just talking to a close friend or a relative. And how you handle those two little words, a and the, is one of those simple little details that will make a huge difference in your reads. So most of the time you're going to use the short form, and the. Every now and then you'll need to use a and the. But if you practice those conversational tips we talked about, you'll realize that you already instinctively know how to say these words. You just need to switch your brain into conversation mode from reading mode. It's very subtle and very simple. It's one of those techniques, though, that once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And if you learn to master it, it's really going to help you sound more like you. Thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and leave a comment down below and let me know if you think this is going to help your reads. Maybe try it on your own and do that comparison test, play it back, and see what it sounds like. And if you missed my previous video on some cheat codes to get more authentic reads, you can check that out right here.